At the beginning of this decade, Rayo Vallecano was sat 12th, not in La Liga, but in La Liga 2. 4 points out from playoffs, having only been in Europe ever once, in 2002, well before I was even born. Having only been able to qualify through a now scrapped UEFA Fair Play draw, which saw them qualify for the Europa League, having finished 9th. And they reached the quarterfinals of that Europa League. And now, present day, Rayo is at 13th in La Liga, obviously not great, but in Europe for the second time ever, for the first time in my life, having drawn against both Real and Barcelona, something thought unimaginable at the beginning of this decade, and on the brink of their longest ever stint in La Liga in our history. Vallecas is a very neglected part of Madrid by the government. Not a lot of tourism there from all that you get being the capital of Spain, and it's also a very left-wing part of Spain, which I have familial roots in, and there's a lot of culture of rebellion, of left-wing politics, of standing out, banding together, standing up against big corporations and things like that. And the thing that shows Vallecas' culture the most is our stadium, a quite small ground, I think either the smallest or the second smallest ground in La Liga. And one of the biggest thing, the most iconic thing about the stadium, there is an end without a stand. And the reason for that is that there are council houses, a council estate, right behind it. We can't knock down those buildings. And it just shows to how much of a working class area this place is. This iconic wall with our big, massive mural on it as well, our massive banner. You can't miss it, and it is a massive part of our identity, and it is also the scourge of players who manage to hit balls into the balconies behind there, although much to the joy of the residents who get to keep the ball and sell them. Prime example, Fede Valverde, I think 2 or 3 seasons ago, when we beat Real Madrid, which we'll get into later. One fun fact about the stadium as well, which I found out during the research of this video, is Queen actually performed here. I've heard, this might be wrong, this was the first ever Queen performance in Spain, or at least in Madrid. And it was also the third last Queen performance with all of the original members. Cool fun fact. Going back to culture and such, it shows through our fan base culture. For example, there was an example of a player who once signed for Rayo who had ties to fascism and things like that. Whenever he touched the ball, we booed, and we got him kicked out of our club. When our awful owner, Raul Prensa, invited a Vox party member, a far right wing party in Spain, to our stadium, our fans in droves came back the next day in hazmat suits and mops and deep cleaned our stadium. That is the fan base we are dealing with here. That is the dedication, that is the culture of this club. And going back, our dickhead owner, Raul Dickhead Prensa, who has for a long time tried to ruin this club. He's trying to take us from the Estadio Vallecas and try and move us into a more gentrified neighbourhood and gentrify the area around the Estadio Vallecas. And through our process, we've managed to knock that back, and we'll keep on doing it. And I doubt it will ever happen, because if it does, Raul Prensa, I think he'll be scared for his life. Moving on to more about the footballing history of Rayo Vallecano. The club was founded in 1924 by workers in the Vallecas area. Rayo's famous Ray here is inspired by River Plate. The club spent most of its founding decades in the low parts of the Spanish pyramid, going as far down as the 5th tier and really peaking around the 3rd tier until we got to around the 70s. 77-78, Rayo had their first ever top flight season, and then from around the 80s, Rayo became a yo-yo club between La Liga and La Liga 2 and spending a little bit of time in Segunda B, really elevating them from where they were beforehand. In 2002, Rayo experienced their first ever season in Europe. From 2011 to 2016, Rayo experienced their longest stint in the top flight, soon to be beaten if Rayo stay up this season. The first ever football match that I attended, the only one to this date, professional football match and competitive football match that I attended, was Rayo vs Betis last December. In fact, I believe, because I'm recording this in December, I believe almost a year ago today, I was there, and I got to watch an incredible goal by EC Balathon firsthand, which was amazing. It was a 1-1 draw in the end, but great game all round, almost won. I was almost able to experience Drita versus Rayo, which was last week, but in the end I wasn't able to make it. Now, into the bulk of the video. In March 2019, former manager Paco Gémez was reappointed after having left the club in 2016, replacing club legend Michel, who you may recognise from his time at Girona. I believe he's still there, where he got them up to 3rd or 4th or wherever they ended up finishing. And this was following a 3-1 loss to also relegation threatened Villarreal, losing a relegation 6-pointer 3-1 and being 7 points away from survival, being bottom in La Liga. And Paco Gémez failed to do anything, and Rayo went down and they fell back to the second division for the first time in 2 years. Gémez, in Rayo's first season back in La Liga 2, guided the team only to a 7th place finish, just 1 place out from the playoffs, missing out on just a single point from that 6th place playoff spot. In August of 2020, Rayo Vallecano appointed former Bilbao captain Andoni Iraola after a short stint at AEK Lacana and with Mirandes in Spain. In his first season at Rayo, he guided the club to a 6th place finish, just about getting playoffs. In the playoff semi-finals, Rayo faced off against Leganés, where they easily gathered a 5-1 aggregate victory, leading them on to the playoff final, where they would meet Girona. Despite losing at the Estadio Neckez, Andoni Iraola was able to turn the tie around in the away fixture, winning 2-0 and sending Rayo back up to La Liga after 2 seasons. The 21-22 season for Rayo, first back in La Liga, was good but unremarkable, Andoni guiding us to what looked like a comfortable mid-table finish in 12th, but realistically only just 4 points from relegation. There was also a notable fact in this season, first time in Rayo's history, we beat Barcelona home and away in the league. That's not what was good about this season. Just that Barca win, that's not what was notable about this season. Because in this season, something quite remarkable happened in the Copa del Rey. Prior to the 21-22 season, Rayo Vallecano's best ever cup run came in the 81-82 season, where Rayo reached the semi-finals, but were then completely dispatched by Sporting de Gijón, losing 4-0 on aggregate. Rayo entered the competition in the first round, where they almost immediately suffered a humiliating defeat against Guigelo, but luckily was able to scrape by 4-3 on pens. Next up, in the second round of the Copa del Rey, Rayo were able to act like they were a La Liga team and dispatch Bergantiños' 4th tier outfit 3-1. Probably should have won by more considering the league difference, but an easy, comfortable win in the end and through to the 3rd round. Now in the 3rd round, Rayo would now come up against their first professional team and Andoni's former team, Mirandes. After the first half at Estadio Municipal de Anduva, Rayo Vallecano and Mirandes were unable to separate themselves, it being 0-0 at the break. But then, into the second half, in the 67th minute, Andrés Martín, FIFA potential merchant Andrés Martín, was able to fire a good shot to the left top hand corner and win the game for Rayo, with nothing else coming in the game other than a red card. And with that, Rayo had reached the round of 16. Rayo would then face in the round of 16 their first real challenge, coming up against Girona, a team that would eventually go promoted. Girona looking for revenge after Rayo denied them promotion in the playoff final the year prior. And Girona started off to a pretty fiery start with a double save needing to be produced by son of Zinedine, Lucas Zidane, who kind of created the double save after spilling the original shot. Into the 26th minute, a corner was whipped in and scored by Bernardi, slipping through Lucas Zidane's hand, and this is why he is not our main keeper, and I feel the need to mention he is not our main keeper. Rayo's luck in the previous rounds now looking like it was going to catch up to them, with them being now 1-0 down at Girona's ground and it not looking good. Just before half time, and a free kick in a good crossing area was going to be put in by Bebe, and now it's time for a Bebe side tangent. Do you remember Bebe, the guy that Sir Alex Ferguson signed for Manchester United without scouting, and he was pretty shit for them? Well, he's at Rayo Vallecano in this period, and he's going to show maybe Sir Alex Ferguson was right to sign him after all. Anyway, the cross was taken by Bebe and it's haphazardly headed away and easily volleyed in, absolutely slammed in by Sergi Guardiola. 1-1 just before the break. The second half now comes and a back pass to the goalkeeper is capitalised on by Sergi Guardiola who tracks it and the keeper goes to clear it and it bounced straight off Sergi Guardiola and is into the back of the net and Rayo lead. The lead now in Rayo's hand and all the momentum in their favour, having scored just before the half and right at the beginning of the half. Rayo should now easily be able to see this out. Are you fucking kidding me? With the softest penalty of all time being given and Luca Butterfinger Zidane in the net, it's now to... Oh. Well, that works out. With a solid defensive display for the rest of the game and a pretty dubiously disallowed goal for Girona for offside, Rayo are through to the quarterfinals for the first time since 2002. Also the last time they were in Europe. Perhaps a coincidence. Rayo would now face their first La Liga outfit, Mallorca, who at this point of the season was significantly lower than them. Them just fighting against relegation, just barely winning, and Rayo being a point off Europe. This was now the first home game of the entire run for Rayo, and they would look to make it count. Early doors, Mallorca score, but it's offside. Then a great ball forward finds an Alvaro Garcia run who cuts back looking for the shot but is ultimately unable to as he is illegally taken down. Rayo are handed a penalty. Captain and long-time servant of the club, Oscar Trejo, takes the penalty and dispatches it, sending the keeper the wrong way and giving Rayo a lead. Can they see this out? Second half and Rayo have attack after attack after attack after attack, and they look like they surely should be scoring, and yet they are unable to. But neither are Mallorca, and for the second time in history, Rayo Vallecano qualify for the semi-finals of the Copa del Rey. In the semi-finals, Rayo Vallecano would meet Betis, which would prove to be a mountain to climb, with the team being far, far ahead of Rayo by the end of the season. And before we get into this, obviously we've had the first shirt change. We're going to have a few of those. This is the kit from 21-22. The last one was the home kit from 22-23. This kit is the kit that we are going to wear in the second leg of the semi-final, so I felt it prudent to change into this one. We're going to have a few of these kit changes throughout the video, and this is the first one. This is a very good, nice kit. I prefer this one to the other one, but they're both good kits. The first leg would be held at the Estadio Vallecas. Just 5 minutes into the first leg here at the Estadio Vallecas, and great cross into the box would find Alvaro Garcia, who is able to convert into the back of net, and Rayo take an early lead, and the Estadio erupts with cheers. But it wouldn't last, as in the 26th minute, Borja Iglesias took an incredible shot after dribbling through a few Rayo players, puts it into the bottom corner, a completely unsavable shot. Then, in the 68th minute, the lead for Betis, as Alejandro Bozo Catena had a ball put through his legs, and Cavalier then had the easiest finish of his life and put it into the side netting, giving Betis the 2-1 lead. This is how the first leg would end. Now go into the away leg having lost, a death sentence for a Rayo side who had been horrible away from home, and their entire season having been propped up by being one of the best home teams in Europe that year. Losing at home meant probably the end of the cup run. Rayo having just had 3 league away wins that season. But then, there was the second leg, and Rayo would not give up easily. The first half came and went, nothing. Then the 50th minute, the 60th minute, the 70th minute, the 80th minute, nothing. It was still 0-0, and Betis were the only team that were looking like doing anything like scoring, Rayo having no meaningful chances up until this point. And then in the 80th minute, Bebe puts down a free kick from miles out. This is probably going to be our only opportunity of the match. It's a good opportunity to try and cross it in. Bebe takes it in. Oh my god. Oh. What a goal! Rayo a level! It is 1-0 on the night at the Estadio Benito Villamarin, and Rayo are level 2-2 on aggregate. It's incredible. What a goal it is, Bebe! Showing why Sir Alex Ferguson was wrong. A fraud, if you will. With a goal line clearance very shortly after that goal, Looked like Rayo were about to take this to extra time and see what they could... And in that clusterfuck, it was done. And Alejandro Bozo Catena screwing us in both legs, we were out. But we could keep our heads held up high as we were this close to taking this extra time, we're this close to Rayo's first ever final, and that was definitely our best ever cup run in our history, as our last semi-final we were dispatched 4-0 without even a second glance. And I do want to mention, I do say Alejandro Bozo Catena, but he is probably our best centre-back in this period, and just up in that second goal, and the goal here probably wasn't really his fault. Andoni Iraola saw out his contract after the 22-23 season, with Rayo being this close from reaching Europe for the second time ever. And he left to Bournemouth, where he is now and is thriving, handing Bournemouth's their best seasons ever in their history, like he did for Rayo. In the end, we did miss out on Europe, narrowly after losing to Mallorca on the final day, although thankfully if we had won that game, we would have had Europe for I think a month and then had it snapped away from us, so it's probably the best case scenario. That was as Osasuna were barred from Europe but then unbarred from Europe, so in the end Bilbao thought they were getting Europe for about a month and then had it taken away by Osasuna. But this was a great season. We cut down the gap from us and Europe from 20 points to 4. Rayo also pulled off a historic win against Real Madrid in this season, a famous 3-2, this game where Fede Valverde hit the ball into someone's balcony, and just the second win for Rayo against Real Madrid in 30 years. The cup campaign in this season was a far cry of the previous season as well, with us being knocked out in the round of 32 in this one, being handed a 2-0 loss by Sporting de Gijón. Those guys again, like from the semi-final of 82. With the departure of Andoni Iraola, the board would look for a successor and picked Francisco, the guy who the previous season was sacked after having 0 points after 12 games with Elche. That's who we brought in. Raul Dickhead Prensa has decided to fuck this club up again and hire the worst Francisco that this country has ever seen. Not only that, but Rayo in this summer lost Santi Comesaña, Fran Garcia and Alejandro Catena, 3 crucial players, and then gave us Francisco! Unsurprisingly, he was sacked in February, with the club sat 14th and out of the cup in the round of 32 after losing 3-1 to Girona and having one of the most humiliating defeats of recent memory to Atleti, 7-0. With the failure of Francisco, the club went to what worked before, hiring a former Bilbao player, Íñigo Pérez. Íñigo Pérez had been Francisco's assistant manager, but that wouldn't say anything about what he'd be like as our manager. It was Íñigo Pérez's first managerial job, and it'd even been his first ever assistant manager job when he was there with Francisco, and he really had to prove himself. And prove himself, he did. Not in this season though, as Rayo narrowly dodged relegation in 17th, clear by only 5 points and 1 place. The 24-25 season was going to be a very important year for Rayo because of what happened on the pitch, and also because it was our 100th year. And that's why I'm wearing this kit, which was from that year, last season, with the 100 on it. It's a pretty nice kit, I think you can say. And so, would we be able to celebrate in our 100th year? Let's go see. And as a side tangent, in this year there was also the clusterfuck that was James Rodriguez, who signed for the club and played I think 2 or 3 games, had a fit about not playing, fucked off and called out the entire club as a whole. Rayo started off the season with a great win, 2-1 away to Sociedad, and followed that up with a 3-game winless streak, losing to Barcelona and Espanyol, 2 Catalan clubs. Moving on, the club would eventually see a 9-game unbeaten streak, which is what really propped up our season. A thrilling streak that started in December against Valencia and also included an amazing 3-3 draw against Real Madrid, It was also during this 9-game unbeaten streak that I watched that Betis versus Rayo game that I mentioned earlier. A good draw. Left Rayo in 6th place. 5 points from Champions League, 4 points clear from a non-European spot. A great place to be with 15 matches left. Except the club then hit quite a horrible patch of form, with the team only being able to manage a single win in 11 game against Alaves, a relegation threatened side, 3 points away from the Conference League. But then, that Rayo team that went on that 9-game unbeaten streak clicked again. They were back, and we got back into an amazing bit of form, and we won 2 games on the bounce, winning a game away to Getafe and a game at home to Las Palmas, and also earning a well-earned home draw to Betis. Then, after that Betis draw, there was a crucial win against Celta Vigo away, a team also fighting for Europe who were just above us, and that put everything quite close, leaving Rayo in 8th, a Conference League spot, meaning that if we won our last game of the season, we would be guaranteed Europe due to us being equal on points with Osasuna and having head-to-head over them after not losing to them home or away. There was just a point as well separating us and Europa League spot, and the only team being able to catch us being Osasuna, so that all eyes were just on that game. If we win, there was nothing to worry about, and if we lose or we draw, it's only one game that can ruin our year. Rayo had the harder game of them and Osasuna, playing 10th place Mallorca, while Osasuna played Alaves. Both teams here, Mallorca and Alaves, are fighting for nothing after Alaves just about clinched survival on the game week before after a narrow win against Valladolid. Vigo, as a separate thing, have Getafe, something Rayo will look to if they are winning. Now, into the game. The first action of the final day came from the Vigo game, where Borja Mayoral scores for Getafe, meaning that Rayo are 7th now in a Europa League spot. From the Osasuna game, there are chances for both teams, Osasuna and Alaves. Borja Iglesias comes back to haunt Rayo again like he did in the semi-final of the Copa del Rey, scoring, and from this point on, the Vigo game doesn't matter. Vigo go on to score again and hold on to that and win. There's going to be no Europa League football for Rayo. Now to concentrate on Rayo and Osasuna. Then in the 31st minute, a successful turnover means that Rayo have 5v3, but then it results only in a saved Alvaro Garcia shot. The 39th minute now, and Alvaro Garcia grazes just over the bar and hits the iconic wall behind the goal. The 50th minute now, and Mallorca's keeper pulls off an amazing double stop to deny Rayo an opener. They are dominating, but it's still 0-0. Then the first real bit of action in the 54th minute, where an Osasuna player kicks an Alaves player very clearly and obviously in the box. A penalty, which Carlos Vicente dispatches and scores. Rayo now have a 2-goal cushion in this game and can even start losing in their own game. In the 78th minute, Mallorca's keeper is providing even more entertainment, making a tremendous stop to deny Rayo again. Shortly after, De Frutos has his shot also denied by this keeper. The keeper clearly being the best player in this Rayo game, as it is still 0-0. And more importantly, 88th minute, Osasuna equalise. Raul Garcia scoring to level it out over there. Now there's just one goal, and silence falls over the Estadio Vallecas as the full-time whistle is blown. All eyes over to that game. Just 2 minutes left there, and late on, a red card and a free kick in a dangerous area is given. The Estadio Vallecas is cautiously looking over to see how this is going to pan out. That is offside. There is no red card, there is no free kick, and the full-time whistle is my lifetime. It is amazing. There is parties outside the Estadio Vallecas following this. Nothing organised, and yet there is a whole parade outside the stadium already. I remember this very clearly. I was actually in an Airbnb in Avila at the time, and I remember running around the house. We had made Europe! Such an incredible moment and something thought unthinkable. Remember, at the turn of this decade, January 1st on 2020, Rayo Vallecano were 12th in La Liga 2. But now, we're in the Conference League. This season I'm not particularly going to touch on the league for two reasons. One, because the European campaign is really all it's about here, and second, we're not really doing much in the league, we're not doing well. It's like the cup run season. Mostly talked about the cup run, and now we're going to talk about the run in Europe. But to talk about the league for a second, Rayo have only managed 4 wins in the league this season, most coming from a 3-game win streak, beating Sociedad, Levante and Alaves on game weeks 8, 9 and 10, with the other one coming on the first game of the season against Girona. Rayo have also managed a 0-0 draw against Real Madrid and a 1-1 draw against Barcelona, where their only goal came through a penalty that was given when it shouldn't have been a penalty, and VAR was not working. Anyway, these results have us sitting 13th in the table, having, at the point of this recording, just drawn 0-0 with Betis. Moving on to the European campaign. Some of these Conference League games aren't going to have clips because UEFA hates me. I've been fighting against them for like a month now. I've had to give up on some clips, so yeah, just a disclaimer there. Rayo drew Belarusian outfit Neman Grodno in the mandatory playoff round here, and the first leg would be held at a neutral venue due to FIFA and UEFA sanctions on Belarus. This home leg ended 1-0 to Rayo. When the home game came, there was an incredible atmosphere in the Estadio Neckez, the first European game held at the Estadio Neckez in over 20 years. An amazing spectacle where Rayo were able to win 4-0 and gather a 5-0 aggregate win, and it was just amazing. An amazing vibe sesh in the Estadio Neckez, and Rayo were through to the league phase. The first game that Rayo would have to undertake in this campaign in Europe was Macedonian side Skendia, and my editor is half Macedonian and is obviously going to be very angry about that pronunciation. After 30 minutes of deadlock in the Estadio Neckez, it was broken by new signing Fran Perez. 1-0 shortly thereafter. It was 2 as Unai Lopez scored a well taken goal, and it was 2-0. After these 2 fast goals and the deadlock finally broken, the water gets broken, and Rayo would surely go and win comfortably and smash Scandisha. The game was then concluded 2-0. Next, Häcken in Sweden. Early into the game, Rayo take the lead through a good move that is capitalised off by Alvaro Garcia, who at this point is one of the most tenured players at the club, with obviously him scoring in the promotion playoffs against Girona to send Rayo up to La Liga all those years ago in 2020. It's looking like Rayo would see out a second easy victory in the Conference League with us completely dominate. Oh god, not that music again. With some of the most calamitous defending you'll ever see, Häcken now lead. And with us now a minute over the allotted time, it's going to be a first defeat in Europe for Rayo. Oh well, the referee's not giving it. Are you kidding me? After somehow minutes of deliberation, the referee finally gives what is an obvious penalty, and up steps Andoni Iraola, a player who'd been linked with all the big clubs around Europe. There was Barcelona being probably one of the most notable of them, some clubs in the Premier League as well, like Tottenham. But in the end, he stayed and extended and put away this penalty, making sure that Rayo stay unbeaten in the Conference League. 2-2 is how this game concludes. Next up is Lech Poznan, a team that will most likely be the hardest fixture, the biggest team that Rayo come up against in the Conference League. And with that said, we go down 1-0 after 10 minutes. Not to worry, however, as Rayo have easily been the best team in these opening minutes of the game, and they'll surely come back around. Oh god, we're going to bottle this all and get knocked out, aren't we? 2-0 is how it would conclude at the break, and going into the second half, some regulars start trickling on, 2 of which being Andoni Iraola and Isi Palathon, who link up to get the first. A brilliant cross in, and Isi Palathon just touching it in, bouncing it off the floor and into the back of the net. 2-1, a lifeline for Rayo. Now, Alvaro Garcia wins the ball back with some impeccable work rate, puts a cross in, nothing's going to come of it until De Frutos runs in and hits the ball at the speed of light, hitting the back of the net, and it's 2-2 with an absolute thumping effort. Now it's 2-2 and Rayo look for more. There's about 20 seconds left of this game, and there's a long ball over the top, and famous comeback at the Estadio Neckez. An amazing goal from Alvaro Garcia, one that we'll most likely not see a quality of for the rest of the season. An amazing touch and bang! Just incredible goal and an incredible win. It's 3-2, and let's have a look at where that leaves us halfway through the league phase. Rayo are 6th and looking like one of the better teams in this competition. Obviously, however, it is all really close, and Rayo are just 1 point from being out of the top 8, while also being only 2 points from top. Slovan Bratislava were up next. Rayo almost went ahead through an amazing effort after 20 seconds, but it is denied. Then a true wonder strike came up as Fran Perez is able to fire one from miles out, wrong for the keeper, and give Rayo a lead. And at this point, we are just cruising through this league phase, and it looks like it's just going to be another win. Oh God, not again. In the space of 4 minutes, Rayo went from 1-0 up to 2-1 down, and that is how the game would end. The first defeat of the run to Slovan Bratislava. It's not ideal, but we move on to Jagiellona. And in this game, Rayo would take an easy early lead with an Alvaro Garcia cross meeting Sergio Camello, who's easily able to poke it home. 1-0, back into our groove. Rayo would now see this out until half time. Ah, shit. That was some more awful defending. We move, however. Rayo were able to pick up another goal though in this game, making it 2-1 through an Ospino botched cross that ended up in the back of the net. A good goal, and Rayo would see this out this time, winning 2-1 going into the final game of the league phase. In the aftermath of this game, however, Jagiellona Ultras attacked a bus with a bunch of Rayo supporters, and one other thing, this happened as well against Lech Poznan, being stoked by videos being leaked to the media of our awful home dressing room. So, Rayo Vallecano aren't very well liked in Poland, it seems. Now, as I just said, with there being one game left, let's take another look at how the table is looking. Rayo still just 1 point away from themselves and playoffs. At this time, they are now in 7th. And Rayo also now are guaranteed playoffs. That is guaranteed. Get Rayo in the knockout with 4 points separating Rayo and being in a non-playoff spot. A win in the next game against Drita would guarantee a top 8 finish for Rayo and round 16 football. So let's get on to that. Now, Drita at home at the Estadio Neckez, a game I did want to attend and almost did, but didn't in the end. It should be an easy game, and a European round of 16 should be guaranteed to Rayo. But is it? 5 minutes gone and a long-range effort is easily held by the goalkeeper. 33 minutes gone and centre-back Florian Lejeune picks up the ball well out, and oh my god, what a goal! And Rayo lead through that. That is insane. 1-0 Rayo Vallecano at the Estadio Neckez, putting them firmly in the top 8, I think 3rd at this point. This is the second half, and Ratti was able to put in a through ball, and that is, I mean, I'll take it. With a gaping hole in their wall the size of Raul Prentz's greed, Gumbau was easily able to score a second goal to make it 2-0 on his 31st birthday. Rayo are able to finish off the night through an amazing Ospino solo run and goal, winning 3-0 at the Estadio Neckez, a famous victory and our biggest of the league phase. Rayo were 4th when the game ended, but a late equaliser for AEK Athens through an own goal puts Rayo in 5th to conclude the league phase. Rayo will now face one of KUPS of Finland, Skandisha again of Macedonia, Lech Poznan also again of Poland, or Samsunspor of Turkey. What looks like relatively easy opponents, but obviously we did lose against Slovan Bratislava, so you never know. 3 months, just over 3 months in fact, since the rest of the video was recorded, so let's get back into it and see what's happened to date. Well, it's been a bit of a mixed bag for Rayo with some crushing defeats. 4-0 loss to Elche, a 3-0 loss to Vigo, a 3-1 loss to Osasuna, and the worst 1-1 draw of all time against Getafe. Bordalez will hopefully one day answer for his crimes, with the keeper here going down just out of nowhere with an injury. So obviously time wasting after have just received a yellow card for already time wasting, and he stayed on the pitch somehow. I mean, it was just a joke. It was some of the worst time wasting you've ever seen, some of the worst football you ever see, and it was a 1-1 draw ultimately. Now, I know that last one wasn't a loss, it was a draw, but it is the most miserable football match I've ever had the displeasure of viewing, so I'm just going to put it down as a loss because it is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Just the most anti-football. Mikel Arteta wishes he was that bad. But there were some resounding victories in the past 3 months. 3-0 versus Atletico Madrid being the absolute standout, something I don't think we've done in over a decade, beating them. This was played at Leganes's ground as there were some problems at our home ground. Lots of protests going on at the club at the moment as well because they're trying to move us. Look, you can look into some of that at the moment. Lots of whistles at games. We are banding together against it. There was also a 3-0 win against Rayo Oviedo, the most recent to date result actually. And with all of that, Rayo are left in 12th. Now 6 points clear of the drop and only 6 points away from being in Europe again next season. Currently on a 4-game unbeaten run. We could be on 5, but we did have a narrow defeat to Real Madrid, where they ran their whole penalty a favor de Real Madrid strategy, which obviously works because the referees are padded with, underneath their referee clothing, all Real Madrid apparel and tattoos, because they're all Real Madrid fans. And also, Rayo do now have a Conference League opponent in the round of 16 in Samsunspor, the team that finished 12th in Conference League. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, this video is now over. Oh, it's been a long ride. It's been such an incredible passion project, fighting against copyright strikes and all. And hopefully this video can now actually go live and get out there. Thank you to any of you who might have gotten to this point of the video. That is just so greatly appreciated and so insane. A lot now coming. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded, but I do want to actually start making a habit of getting on it. Maybe some Conference League and Champions League predictions if there's time. There probably won't be, but whatever's going on at Tottenham. And talking about Rayo, what happens as a result of the Samsunspor game, things like that. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Oli Mudkip. I hope you check out my Twitch, where I'm streaming quite often, my Twitter and my Discord in the description, and I will see you all next time. Good